The stats say, hey, 40, 50 years old. I would encourage people in their 20s to do it. And I might be, well, I am biased just because I started a business in my 20s. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to How I Talk. I'm your host, Chris Jones.
And the Big T here. I'm ready today. As always, I come ready, I come prepared, and I come with something to say.
All righty, guys. Well, hey, another topic, another conversation. And guess what? It is going to be challenging your thoughts. Of course, you may agree, you may disagree. It doesn't matter. But what we do know is that you need to subscribe and like this page, guys. This is YouTube. We post plenty of videos. Listen to our podcast on Apple, iTunes, whatever it is. Check in with us every week. We always have something new and refreshing. So today's topic, let's get right into it, guys. The question at hand is, when should you start a business? At what age should you start a business? Guys, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, especially during this time. There are plenty of people that are looking into entrepreneurship. But one of the most important things is, at what age should you start a business, right? A lot of people believe that you should start as soon as you get out of college, maybe within college. There are some people that say you should wait until you're 40 or 50. The question is, when does it really make sense to start a business? So, Tim, do you want to start it off, or should I go right into it? Which one do you want to do? You let me know. How are we doing this thing?
Either way, but I can tell you this. Well, I'll go ahead and start it off. Well, here's the funny thing. People would say you should start a business in your 20s or when you're younger. And they are right depending on what you're looking at. Now, here's the funny thing. The people we see that are successful, or that we tend to see with our eyes that are successful, people like Dell Computers, right? The guy from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, the guy that just went into space. Um, what's the guy? The Virgin, he went into space.
Richard Branson.
Branson was in his 20s when he started. So all of these guys I just mentioned, they're just famous. I mean, people know them. And so they started real young, and you'll look at them and go, hey, that must be the formula. That's the formula if you want to be successful. But however, I will tell you, the stats prove out different. The stats prove that if you're over 35 and you start a business, you'll typically be more successful. The stats prove that most tech companies were started by people who were in their 40s. Now, this is wild. You may not even know all of those people, see, but those people were started a little later in life. Let's pick Amazon. He started a little later in life. He didn't start in his 20s. Who is Amazon? Whatever Amazon the owner is. He started later in life. So it's some things you can say, hey, it's good that you start in your 20s. Well, in your 20s would be a good start, because you would then take all the risks. You take more risk. You can learn a lot more. You have more opportunities, I think, to fail than when you're a little bit later in life. You tend to be more, a lot more risk, because you're willing to do these startups. And when you get later in life, in your 40s and 50s, it's hard to do a startup because you're not willing to take the same amount of risk. But however, you're a little bit more savvy from being around business. And this is assuming, I would say we're making an assumption that this person has been around business and is doing business in their life. So when they get ready to do this, they're familiar with it. And because there are a lot of sob stories of people who started later in life and they lost all of their savings, they lost all of their retirement, things of that nature, trying to do a startup business, and they just didn't have it to be able to do. But the stats would say that most people who start up later in life tend to be more successful with the company than those who were younger. And if you really think about it, the ones that are younger, they probably had some failures along the way. They probably changed the business model, changed how they did it, so on and so forth, in order to finally get that thing working. I'm sure what Branson doing now is not what Branson started doing. So what Richard Branson, so I'm sure it's not. He changed over the years. Why? Because you learn, you get savvy as you get older. You understand a little bit better. You understand your profit margins, assuming you've done this before, been in the arena. So it's I guess it would just depend on the individual one. I would say one on the individual, because some 20s can handle it and they're willing to take the risk. And the worst thing can happen is you just go to a job when you're 20. But when you're later in life, you don't just go to another job. In your 50s, people are not hiring you. They're usually not wanting you in their company. And the ones that do want you in their company is usually in an insignificant position, usually not in one of those significant positions, because they may be intimidated by someone who's in their 50s, especially someone who may be well versed in business and knowledgeable and things like that, and it's keeping up with stuff. They will definitely be intimidated somewhat. So a 20 something, and it's difficult for someone who may be 50 something to now all of a sudden start taking orders from a 20-year-old, 25, 30-year-old to say, okay, you're going to tell me what to do. And they're probably going, I changed the diapers. I got diapers older than you. So it becomes difficult. And so these are all challenges, but I would say the stats bear out. The older you get, the higher the chance of success. Your thoughts?
Interesting. So, what age should a person start their business? If there was any age, I would say the age is today. Start a business today. It doesn't matter how old you are, start it today. And the reason I say that is because today is better than tomorrow. Same thing that they apply in the stock market. Today is the best day to invest, not tomorrow. Every day you lose opportunity. Now, if we wanted to talk actually about the age, I would say, the stats say, hey, 40, 50 years old. I would encourage people in their 20s to do it. And I am biased just because I started a business in my 20s. So if I look back at it now, in my early 20s, what I was doing, I was like, dude, I don't know what you was doing. Like, I'm making up stuff as I go. I mean, even now, I'm making up some things some things you just don't know. You learning as you go. It's literally you are learning as you go. The one con about learning as you go at a young age is the failures can be so big that that company no longer exists because you don't know what you're doing. The company may just go out of business because you have no idea. But at the same time, you can go create another business because you can take on more risks. You're young. You're very young, right? But when you're 25, you don't know what you're doing. But at the same time, you're green. You're ready to try new things. You're open ears. You're ready to learn more about the market in your niche. You're learning to build. You're learning to sell. And then you're learning to sell what you built. Those are three things that are important in entrepreneurship. Learn to sell, learn to build, and learn to sell what you built. I think that is very important. So the other thing is you also have a lot of energy when you're in your 20s, in your 30s too. But when I say that, even though the energy, you have more risk, you have maybe less family responsibilities or priorities, when you also look at on the contrary, yes, 40s and 50s, these people know systems. They understand it very well. They understand businesses. They've seen businesses. Again, it depends on what type of person you are. I'm assuming this person's very business savvy. They've been around businesses. Maybe they've been an investor this whole time, just never really built a business. So it really just depends what you really know. But when I look at that, I'm like, hey, this person may know systems. Guess what? The cash reserves may be heavy. So really for them, it's plug and play. Sometimes you have the business model, you don't have the cash. At 2025, you ain't got the cash. You may have the system or the idea, or you may just have the idea, you don't have the systems or the cash. You
And
learn again.
it's hard for someone to invest in someone who's 20 years old in 20s and 30s to say, hey, I'm gonna invest in you, and you don't really know anything. It's hard to make that investment because more than likely you're gonna lose it. And there are some exceptions, but more than likely you'll lose it. But someone who's over 40, They tend to know, hey, I've been around a little bit. I got a little season on me. So therefore, I would have something to offer. I would see that as a better investment because they would say, okay, I kind of know what's happening around here. Let me give you some examples. Vera Wang was over 40s when she started a fashion designer. Uh, Gary Heaven, the founder of Curves Fitness, over 40. Jack Well, Rock Mount Ranchwear, over 45 when he started. Tim and Zena Zagat. You heard of Zagat Reviews? They were over 40 something when they started. The guy who started McDonald's, well over 40 when he started. Henry Ford, Ford Motor Company, KFC. He was in his 60s when he got KFC. Brian Hallinger, Hub Sports, HubSpot, um,
I
Chandra,
use HubSpot. Okay.
Manish Chandra, Poshmark, started well in their 40s. Huffington, Arrington Huffington, the Huffington Post. She was well over in her 40s, almost 50 when she started the Huffington Post. So what I'm saying is all of these are names you probably recognize, and you probably have some idea about them. And they're all started by people well over into their 40s. Why? Because they're a little bit more business savvy. And people would invest in them. They would be able to get the
Mm.
capital to do what they need. So, like you said, though, when is the best time to start a business? Now. If you don't start it now, you're never going to start it. How do you know you're going to start a business? Let me tell you how you know. You know when you start writing it down. That's when you know you're going to start the business. See, a lot of people just simply talk about starting a business. They're just simply giving ideas. Ideas is great, but it's not until you write it down that you know you're going to start the business. And until you write it down, people out there, you're never going to start the business. So if you say, yes, I'm ready to start the business, I'm going to say, start today. And then I'm going to tell you what to do now. Go write it down. I've told people that time and time again, until they write it down, you don't flush out really what you're thinking. You don't flesh out what your idea is. You don't flesh out, hey, your model, because then people can now ask you questions when you write stuff down. When you begin to write down and say, hey, this is what I want to do, now someone can turn and ask you, okay, so what are you going to do the first year? Oh, well, you need a plan for that. Well, what are you going to do year 2 and 3? Well, oh, you need a plan for that. What do you see? What do you see your business model? What does it look like? Oh, do you have a bank account set up? Oh, have you gotten a name? See, they're going to be able to ask you these things. Okay, what's your name going to be? Okay, does anyone have that name? Have you went and registered that name? So they'll be able to ask you specific questions on what your business is doing when you write it down. And then you write down, hey, here's what I plan to make. Okay, well, how do you know you're going to make that? Tell us how you know that. Oh, it's based on what? Research that you've done based on someone else. Okay. How long is that business that you've gotten this model number from? How long have they been in business? Well, if they've been in business 7 years and you're getting ready to start, you're not making that 7-year revenue there. You're not getting that. So you got to figure out what is year 1. Okay, well, then how are you going to live while you're doing this business? See, these are questions you have to answer. And when you have to answer those questions, if it's not written down, you're going to be just sitting there going, you know what? It's just a dream. And you're going to get frustrated when someone asks you about, hey, are you ready to start? You're going to be frustrated. Why? Because you say, it's just a dream. You haven't written anything down. You got to do that, or else you would never start. So I would encourage you just like you. Hey, you got to start today.
You know, what I find also interesting is I think it also is dependent upon you as a person too, and the fact that should you start young or should you start old? You know, that's the question at hand at what age, right? Of course, we state today, but if we were actually state a number, I would actually encourage people to start at a younger age if I had to choose between the two. While I understand that the data shows that more success is found in older people, I would say younger. And the reason I say that, again, I'm biased, but I would say two things. One is do it younger, but I'd also say it's good to get some corporate experience. In the corporate world, it will give you a good structure. It will show you systems. It will show you how big companies do things. As a small business, you will not have the capital to do some of those things, but you will have the savviness to understand how to implement those things. You understand how people speak, right? In a business aspect, you understand certain etiquette. So when you go into your niche, hey, compared to your other peers, you may just beat them because you have more business etiquette, you have better selling skills, right? You learn to sell, you learn all these different things within corporate. Corporate is good. I'm not saying it's all bad. I don't believe in doing the rat race, but corporate is good to an extent. You understand how to dress, you understand the importance of your appearance. There are certain things that you can pull from corporate, then go apply in your business. And that's why I think it's important to get some of those things to draw from it. Now, on the contrary, I would say if you do not like corporate, if that is not for you long term, that's for me. That's where I realize this is great, but this is not something I want to be doing for 15, 30 years. I don't want to be waiting that long. I don't like it enough. I don't want to be reporting to somebody acting like I really like you, huh?
You already been there 10 years.
Yeah. Look, don't be telling people all my business. It ain't been no 10 years. That's first and foremost. It's almost been that much, but you do come to realize, like, I got to get out of here. You realize I want my freedom. Corporate world, I don't believe there's any type of freedom related to it. And there's a different type of freedom with creating your business. But you got to understand, if you build it sooner, you can get the freedom quicker. At 20 years old, most businesses don't really start running, really get turning the engine until about 15, 20 years when you're really just going. Like your name's really known in the market. It's not an overnight thing. So when you're doing 40, you may cut it down to maybe 5 to 10 years. While you have the capital, you have the savviness, you understand how things work. But at the same time, you're still in this corporate rat race where you're dealing with these dynamics in corporate that I would never want to deal with. I'd rather go, hey, you know what? If I can go live off of my business and live with that and say, maybe I take a $30,000 hit or $40,000. I'd rather do that and have that freedom than go work in corporate and go deal with some jokers I don't even like. I don't like dealing with, and I got to fake the funk half the time because that's what corporate is. You're really faking the funk. You're really just putting on a face, and working your own job or working your own business. You have the ability to move how you want to move. And that right there can determine whether a person is really an entrepreneur or not. That's a different conversation for a different day. But when you get that freedom, and I think what pandemic showed us, when you get that freedom or you're able to work from home, can you really pull through? When it's all on you for your business to either sink or swim, what are you going to do? And I think for some entrepreneurs, it really makes them fold because, again, you have the freedom to do what you want. You wake up when you want. You do what you want in sales. You can call them back. You ain't got to call them back. You ain't got to do nothing. It's all on you, how you feel about it. But if you have that drive and that willingness to keep going, that's really what I think sometimes separates people that actually do succeed. It's the people that weather the storm the longest because there's always rain. There's always sunshine on the opposite side of rain.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. I was preaching a little bit. You know what I got to say. It's some good stuff.
But I would say one of the advantages, I'm going to give you some more of the advantages of being older when you start the business. I would still tell you, start now. If you got an idea, do it now. But the reason I think someone older would have more success when they start is, one, they have more experiences to pull from. And so since you have more experiences to pull from, that's definitely going to help. Like you mentioned, they would be able to have pull from experiences in corporate, their own everyday life, things they've been through. Number two is that they would have more of an established network. And because you got a network, you got people that may be willing to invest in you. You got ways in which you can obtain money, financial resources, things that would help you grow the business. But number three is, this is the one I think will rattle people, is that people that are a little older, they have this one thing that the ones that are younger do not. Now, what is that? You're going to say, what is that? Here it is, baby. It's going to rattle. It's going to shake you up. It's called one word. It's called humility. When you're younger, you tend to not have the humility. You have more of an ego. And so your business may ride on your ego and your how you want to do it specifically. It's all about you. It's only this way. You want to be the one in charge. So you tend to have more of an ego when you're 20. And you can't do it my way. It's out, all those type of things. You got an ego. But when you're a little in your 40s, close to 50s, you tend to be a little bit more humble about things. And you tend to allow your humility comes through. And because of that, you would probably have more success. More people would want to work with you. If those with a big ego, you can't work with them long. You can't. It's just not. It's not a long-term deal. You'll get tired. It'll wear you out. It's too draining. but someone with humility that, they'll work with you, they'll massage and all of these different things. Those things will help in the growth of the business. So I would tell you that would be all I would have to say for you, other than if you're getting ready to start a business, you want to wait. No, do it now. Do it today. Start now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Tim, you hit it right on the head. So, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. It was another one that was detailed. It was a lot of information, and we will see you guys on the next one.